Okay, the recording has begun. I have 5:37. Chair Schmidt. What was that? Okay, I don't know. All right, Chair Schmidt, do you want to introduce the meeting or would you like me to? Hello, Chair Schmidt?
I apologize. I muted everybody due to the echo, so I may have muted him.
Okay. We can see you, Victor. Okay.
Just go ahead and read the introduction, Cheryl.
Right.
He can unmute himself momentarily when he gets a chance.
Right. This is the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Complaint Committee. This is a remote regular meeting. Listen and public call-in phone number is 415-906-4659. Meeting ID is 910-561-466#. If you wish to make a statement during general public comment, please press *6 and unmute your telephone to speak. Please press *6 to mute your telephone once you are done with your statement. Please also note that callers may now raise their hands by pressing *5. Remote access to information and participation. In accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order N3320, declaring a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, and Mayor London and Breed's proclamation declaring a local emergency issued on February 25, 2020, including the guidance for gatherings issued by the San Francisco Department of Public Health officer, aggressive directives were issued to reduce the spread of COVID-19. On March 17, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized their board and committee meetings to convene remotely via Microsoft Teams and will allow remote public comment via teleconference. Members of the public may participate by phone or may submit comments by email to cheryl.leger@sfgov.org. That's CHERYL.LEGER@sfgov.org. All comments received will be made a part of the official record. Sunshine Ordinance Task Force agendas and their associated documents are available at sfbos.org/sunshine. As the COVID-19 disease progresses, please visit the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website regularly to be updated on the current situation as it affects the legislative process. Chair Schmidt, do you want to read meeting decorum?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Do you want to read meeting decorum?
Yes, I will. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and or menacing behavior may be asked to leave.
Okay.
So we can move to number 1. Yes, please.
All right, item number 1, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. Let's do roll call. Member Stein.
Here.
Member Stein present. Chair Schmidt.
Present.
Chair Schmidt present. We have a quorum. Agenda changes. Yesterday morning, I received from Mark Norton, one of the petitioners in case number 22005, asking to continue his matter to another meeting. I told him at this point it would be up to the committee to make that decision. So that was the only agenda change I was aware of. How do we want to proceed?
Yeah, I'm inclined to allow it, though. Let me ask Member Stein if she has thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm also happy to give him a continuance.
Okay. All right. Do we want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to allow a continuance of, sorry, which item number was it?
Item number 7.
Okay, so 22005. Yeah, so I'll make a motion to continue file number 22005 until the next meeting.
Next complaint committee meeting?
Second.
Correct.
Second.
Yeah. Yes, the next complaint committee meeting.
You want to open this up to public comment?
Yes, please.
Okay, do we have public commenters? This is on the motion to continue item number 5 till the next complaint committee meeting. Do we have public commenters? This is
It
public
appears
comment.
there's no public comment on the matter. So, yeah, I guess we could go ahead and vote on it.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt to allow a continuance of file number 22005 until the
Can
next.
I make a public comment, please? I'm having trouble with number 5 and number 6. Can you hear me?
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, we're just on the one item, but let's go ahead and allow him to make public comment.
Yes, hello. Let me know when to start, please. This is Peter Warfield. Can you hear me? I take it you're hearing me.
Yes,
You,
we
Mr.
can
Warfield.
hear you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Warfield, are you ready to begin?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I have no problem with what you plan to do, particularly since it is in favor of the complainant. But I do wish you would, I didn't quite understand the name of the person, so if you could just say what number item or numbers of items are going to be not heard today, I would appreciate that as a courtesy. Those of us on the phone, it's a little tricky to follow, what your intention is besides postponing something on the agenda.
Okay, Mr. Warfield, that is item number 7, file number 22005. The petitioner asked for continuance.
Okay, thank you. And are we going to be doing 5 and 6 the whole way through here today?
What do you mean 5 and 6?
Star 5 and star 6. One is to raise hand and one is to mute.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll be certainly be doing star 6.
Cheryl, is the raised hand operative?
I see a raised hand.
I wonder who has their hand raised.
This is, give me a quick second. This is Victor. The raised hand should not be a possibility because no one is logging in directly. They should just make their announcements verbally because we are not using the chat during our meetings.
Okay.
So whoever has their hands raised, if you just voice your opinion, if you want to speak during public comment.
So it sounds like the raised hand option is not an option in response to Mr. Warfield's question. So we'll ask him to, I guess raising hand, if it's at an appropriate time, you should speak up, yes.
Yes, and for that person who has the raised hand, I see that you have your phone number logged in 4 different times, so that may be your problem. So I don't know if I see the same phone number logged in 4 times, and that may be causing you problems with muting and unmuting because you may be called in multiple times.
I wonder, Victor, I wonder if we could maybe get the last 4 digits of the phone number to them so they know that
last
it's
4
them.
digits is 6687. I have that phone number logged in 4 different times at this moment.
Okay, let's give them a moment to maybe look into that if it's going to be a problem. I wonder if I could ask who that person might be, because these meetings can raise, we can have difficulties in the meetings, and we want to get through the meeting, without leaving people out. So I wonder if that person could identify themselves, and then we'd know they're here.
What is the raise hand option?
We are not using the raised hand option, but we have one person with a number ending in 6687 who is logged in 4 different times. 3 of those lines are muted, 1 is open, so that may be causing them problems because they are logged in 4 times. And we're trying to figure out who that person is to be sure that they are able to speak to us, and we know that they are not having technical issues.
Okay.
I'm not getting a response, so they may be having technical issues.
Yeah. We may find out who that is, but at least they know, to our best ability, that they are logged in 4 different times. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and proceed. It may we may resolve it sometime later in the meeting, but we have had public comment on that item, and we did have a vote. I guess because we did allow public comment on the matter, let's have that vote again, just to confirm that we're going by process.
Second vote?
Yeah, let's just re-vote on the Norton matter.
Okay. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt to continue item number 22005 until the next complaint committee meeting. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Motion approved.
Okay. If you had other agenda changes, I don't want to stop you, Cheryl, but I have 2 matters that I want to ask questions about.
Okay.
One is number 6, the Bajanski case. Looking through the file, I wanted to see if there was a reinitiation of the case after the case was put on the back burner back in September because of a no-show. Cheryl, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah. Do you want to get to it when we get to item 6?
That's fine. But I wanted to raise the issue. And then also, it's possible that somebody would be here who is interested in number 9. And it appears that the documentation is not available at number 9. And so I wanted to talk about whether we can even have number 9 in that situation. I know some of the documentation had been submitted earlier at other hearings, but neither that nor my new document are attached. Is there any different understanding?
Yes, this is Member Stein. I actually, very strangely, I will just say I had trouble using my normal Google Chrome to download documents. I couldn't do it, but when I switched to Safari, I could download documents for the agenda, and I did download number 9 today.
I'm looking at number 9 as it's posted on the website.
Okay, that Well, okay. That's what Member Stein is saying. Is it very interesting because somehow, are you saying, Member Stein, that you can somehow access the supporting document to number 9 by using a different web browser?
Exactly. So my normal browser, which I always use, which is Chrome, this time did not work with any of the items on the packet. And I had to go to Safari, but I was able to download them all. I don't know if it was there, when it went up. For some reason, I downloaded everything like 5 days ago, except for number 9, but I went today and downloaded number 9 from a different browser than my normal.
Okay. Cheryl, do you know it's something that I don't know about the meeting agenda that I got on Friday? It doesn't seem to have the attachments available. And I'm assuming that's what the public is looking at. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm looking at the agenda as I posted it, and I checked it on Friday, and all the items were available.
Okay, so maybe it's just me. All right. For some reason, with all the other items, and maybe I think I'm on Chrome. I mean, all the other items I have attachments available, but for some reason on number 9 I don't. But I guess maybe there's something strange about what I'm looking at. But maybe we should consider this at number 9, because it seems like the documents are available to everyone, and I already have the documents myself, so it's not a concern for me personally.
Okay.
But it is a very odd thing that
it is. I understand what you're saying, Dean, but I'm going to interrupt you for a second to say that I posted this agenda on Friday. I checked every single one of the links. All documents came up, and they came up in the order, paginated order that they should.
Okay.
And so I don't know why you're not getting the link.
Well, let's assume
Victor, I am looking at it through Firefox at this point in time. It is coming up for me, but I do notice that our usual wording with attachment is not listed there in blue.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yes.
Well, I'm looking.
But the link is working upon my testing of it.
That's what Victor's saying is somewhat similar to what I'm looking at. Are you saying that the link is actually there, but it's like look at this. Aha. Okay, so the word is not there, but you could still. For me, I just where the word attachments would be, and I think that's what Victor is saying. He's saying where the word attachments would be, there's a blank. But if you click the blank, boom, I got the document. And so
we usually highlight the entire title and not just the word attachment when we create the links.
Yeah,
so you can click anywhere in the title and that is the link.
The word attachment is to alert you that there are attachments. I apologize for not having the word attachments on item 9, but what I do is I highlight not just the description, but probably section A, and you can hover your mouse and then click on it, and the documents should pop up.
Got it. Okay. Well, I can see the documents now. It seems like other people can see the documents. My one concern is that I wonder if someone else with technical challenges similar to myself it may be that I'm the only one who is at that level. Does anyone think we either should or should not cancel number 9 and hold it for another month, because maybe others would have had the same confusion that I would have?
You know,
I think we should go forward, Dean.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is Member Stein. I'd like to go forward with it.
Okay.
You know, if in public comment it seems that it's been a problem, then we can, you know, not vote for it. But we can make a motion to go forward, and if it turns out to be a problem, we don't have to approve that motion.
That's fine with me, and it sounds like Cheryl's on board for that. I'm satisfied with that. So let's leave it.
Comment on this?
Yeah, we'll have public comment on it.
This isn't about public comment.
But we will have public on it.
No, on this matter of whether or not to take it up, because I've had the similar problem with the chair. And I'd like to describe it to you as well.
I think we probably, even though we're not taking an action, I think we should allow comment on this because it's somewhat unusual. And I have a concern. And so let's go ahead and allow public commenters on this when you're ready, Cheryl.
Are you saying without a motion, just take public comment?
I know it's unusual, but we basically well.
Okay.
You can take public comment anytime
I'd like to allow it.
Okay.
I'd like to allow it.
All right, no problem.
Okay.
So Mr. Warfield wants to make public comment, am I correct?
Yes.
Mr. Warfield, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Just let me know when to start.
Go.
Thank you. I had a similar problem to what the chair described. I don't think the chair should be too quick to dismiss, as they say, your lying eyes. Your eyes may not be lying at all. My experience was that when I tried to look at what there was with respect to this item, I was not only troubled by item 9's failure to mention anything specific with respect particularly to action, and that's wrong for an agenda item. I was also concerned, as you have been discussing, that I had no link. It didn't seem to link even when I hovered over the item. Then this evening, it seems as though I was able to get a live link and link to item number 9, packet adjustments, whatever, starting on page 192. I haven't had a chance to review anything as a result of my experience. I also want to point out something very important, and we've had this before in a discussion some months ago. These agendas are supposed to be legible and understandable to anybody and not require a computer. And there are plenty of people who print off an agenda, and you need to specify what you are supplying and where. And if somebody has gotten a copy of this on paper, they wouldn't even have an idea that there were explanatory documents, let alone what they are. I think you should specify exactly what explanatory documents there are, and preferably, if there's a link, exactly where the link is, so that somebody with a copy on paper could be able to find this. So that's my experience. Unable to link to any documents, let alone see any specific actions or what would be discussed specifically, especially if there were actions recommended, and an inability to see any linked materials at all initially, and then later too late for me to review anything, able to see
30 seconds.
what you had, what you have apparently there. I'd also like to say that, you know, the rules about minimum requirements for public comment are minimums. I don't think there's any restriction on having more public comment or a second or a third shot. Your only obligation, as I understand it, is to be equal treatment for everybody, so that if you offered the opportunity for one person, you'd have to give the opportunity for somebody else. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for letting me comment before or during your consideration of this matter.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to not try to make any change to that at the moment, although I do still have some concern about this. I feel a little tentative about it, but we're going to go ahead and we can pick it up when we get to number 9. Again, the issue that we just dealt with. Okay. So we did have what I'll call an extra public comment on the matter at my request. And so but I think we can move on. So when you're ready, Cheryl.
All right. Okay. Item number 2, approval of the January 18, 20, oops, made a mistake. It should be 2022 complaint committee meeting minutes.
Okay. Any changes, Member Stein? I don't have any changes. Did you see anything?
Yeah, I only had a tiny change, which I have emailed to you, Cheryl, just because I thought a piece or one of the sentences reflecting what I said was just very unclear. So paragraph or P7, paragraph 2, lines 6 through 9. And I'll just read it here so the, I guess, public can hear it, but I sent you an email of the exact wording. Okay. I just said I would, to make it more comprehensible and clear what I was saying, I think it should just say.
Okay, well, which page of the minutes, not P? Which
P7?
page?
Oh.
Don't give me
P7.
the P, I can't see that.
Okay, I have to pull that up. Hold on then. Okay, so it's page 6 of the minutes. And it's paragraph 2, lines 6 through 9.
Paragraph 2.
Lines 6 through 9.
Okay, well.
Like I said, I did email this to you. So you can pull up the exact wording if you don't want to copy it down now.
Mean time limits on questions could provide more focus. You wanted to say something different? And you said to me. I just want to mark. I'm not going to your changes. I'm just going to mark it so that I'll know.
So it's the sentence saying Member Stein also considered how long a person can question a party while focusing on resolving cases and help reduce burden on petitioner in order to make it more efficient and non-duplicative. That's the sentence.
I'm on page 6.
Yeah, so it's page 6, it's the second paragraph, it's the last sentence. Or it's lines 6 through 9, down the page if you count the first line as the first line that's there.
And 3 space. Remember, it's okay, so lines 6 through 9, the sentence begins, time limits on questions could provide more focus and efficiency.
No, I don't want to belabor this, but the first sentence on the page, entirely on page 6, is and to create a consent calendar. You see that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just go 6 lines down. So if that's 1, 2 starts with cases, 3 starts with members, 4 with members. Okay, so it's just the 6th line down, 6 through 9. The sentence starts, Member Stein also considered.
Okay, got it.
So I just want to say Member Stein would like the task force to consider putting time limits on how long each member can question a party when hearing a case. Time limits on questions could provide more focus and efficiency during the question and answer period and reduce the burden on petitioners who currently must attend long meetings. So that's what I was trying to say, and I just think it's unclear the way the sentence is currently worded.
That's fine. If
Okay,
you
that's
send that information, that's fine. I've marked it in the minutes. I will take a look tomorrow morning.
okay.
Okay, Cheryl, Victor, any other changes?
I don't have any. If you don't have any, we'll just make that one adjustment. I'll do that tomorrow morning. And then I can get the final version of the minutes posted.
Okay, so I think unless Member Stein has anything else, we have the one change, and that's it seems agreed. So whenever you're ready, Cheryl, we can do public comment on number 2.
We don't have a motion.
Good point. Good. I'll make the motion. Motion to approve.
And I'll second that motion to approve the minutes.
With suggested amendments.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, who would like to make public comment on the motion to approve the minutes?
Can you hear me, Peter Warfield?
We can hear you. Yes, so we have one, Cheryl, for public comment.
Do we have other public commenters? This is on the approval of the minutes with suggested amendments.
So when you're ready, Cheryl, Mr. Warfield is up first.
Okay, you ready to begin, Peter?
Yes, I am. Just let me know when.
Go ahead.
This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association, P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. Some of the material in these minutes is extremely prejudicial. So aside from being incorrect, it is highly prejudicial to what was actually said, and indeed a case that's coming before you. It is a framing of a case that will make people think something that is simply untrue and exactly the opposite of what I have said. So, and the first comment I have is that in the description of what happened with our case, there's no opportunity, and I think that's something that has to change at the task force, there's no opportunity for me to provide a 150-word summary of my public comment on that case, because there's not allowed public comment for the presenter and the other side. But let's start with the first item, number 2. It says, Mr. Warfield disagreed with the previous commenter, and I'd also, by the way, like all of what I say about contact information included every time I say it. Because certainly in a real world place, anybody could approach anybody at any time during the meeting, and that's not possible here. Mr. Warfield disagreed with the previous commenter and will address the issue of private emails when that agenda item is called. The whole point of our issue is that it is not a private email if the person on a commission or a government body is using whatever email they're using. If they're using it for public business, it's not private. So the whole issue of a definition of something used for public business, that's not a private email and therefore not withholdable. This would allow, if you allowed this, this would allow anybody to claim anything could be a secret because I'm getting it on my, or sending it on my private, so-called private email. The third item is actually important and it happened again today about the process for changing sunshine process, is difficult to follow the details as you have it, and the details of your process as well as what you're discussing should be fully shown. Then with respect, pardon? Did I have a 30-second warning? I thought I heard something.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, with respect to what happened here, Mr. Warfield stated under number 5, there was no justification for the denial. He noted that this flat refusal, no specific statute on which to base this decision. They didn't provide. That was the key. They did not provide any specific statutory justification. And there's a lack of discussion. Member Stein specifically said, why didn't the commissioners use the publicly available email addresses like she does and like everybody else that she knows does? That's an issue, and that was omitted. I think it's important to include that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a comment.
Okay, we have a second public commenter.
Oh,
Anonymous
sorry, this is
number
anonymous
3.
number 3.
Yeah. Are you ready?
I am.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Just to resolve one of the issues from the previous comment, maybe instead of private email, it should say personal, which is non-judgmental as to whether or not it is private or public. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to I'm going to ask to adopt the recommendation because I think it is a worthy one, and also it does help with what Mr. Warfield had said. And I think it is significant to the work that we're doing that we are very clear about the status of an email account and whether personal, private, etc., what exactly that means. So I would like to amend my motion and to have an additional amendment to the minutes where private is changed to say personal.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
So that's an amendment to my motion.
Which motion? Laura made the last motion. No, I
Oh.
got it. You're right. Dean, move to approve the minutes with suggested amendments. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do we want public comment on the amendment?
I don't know if Member Stein was agreeable to it. I don't know if
Yeah, I said I seconded it.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, let's allow public comment on that amendment.
Well, I'm
Is there
interested
anyone-
in, yes, please.
In the amendment that we just made to the motion. Yeah, whenever Cheryl's ready.
Mr. Warfield, are you ready?
Yes. Let me know when to start.
Go ahead.
Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association. The changing of private to personal, I'm not sure where that would occur other than what I see in item 2. I'm not sure where, again, this is going to be a change that the chair is proposing, but I do not think it's adequate. I think the whole issue is vitally important. We've had a similar case where people were using their personal cell phones, if you like, to claim that this is private when they're doing government business. And in fact, they were using those to conceal and then insist on concealing material that they were where they were handling public business on their cell phones. And so the whole concept of what constitutes a private or personal email address, the issue is, how is it being used? If it's being used for public purposes, then certainly what's on there publicly is disclosable, and the email as well. That's how you reach. That's how you petition your government under the First Amendment. I also think that with respect to the description on our case, item 5, there was nothing with respect to the responses that we made to the argument from the library. There's a single paragraph for each person, and there's nothing. I believe that I was very clear that material that was provided was not provided at the time, that there was mixed up material that was not provided at the time, but particularly that the issue of public versus private hadn't been dealt with properly. It hadn't been established that an email being used for public business is non-disclosable. And the response, the what do you call it, the rebuttal, isn't mentioned here at all. Neither is Member Stein's very valuable and important observation. What's with private or whatever you want to call it emails? Are you saying 30 seconds?
Yep.
Member Stein was very clear. She's using a publicly supplied email that's for public business. Why didn't the Library Commission do that? I believe it's to unlawfully hide what they are doing. At least that's how they're using it. And I don't think that personal, one word change in one of these things is going to correct the gross misrepresentation that these comments represent about our case or our comment.
Up, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's go ahead, unless there's another public commenter, let's go ahead with a vote on this matter.
Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Hang on a second. Moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Stein to amend the motion and change the word private to personal.
Do we need to, it sounds like that was in the form of an amendment to the initial motion. Do we then need to vote on
the initial motion? Was to approve the minutes with suggested amendments.
Yes. And I think so we didn't vote on that yet, correct?
We took public comment.
Okay, so let's go ahead with that vote.
Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Okay. So shall we move on to item number 3?
Yes. General public comment.
Yes. Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda.
Anonymous number 3.
Okay, so first up is anonymous 3. General public comment, anyone else? Okay, let's go ahead with anonymous number 3, Ms. Leger.
Okay. Are you ready, sir?
I am.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. All I was going to suggest is the task force and maybe its committee should think of a way to front load the things that most petitioners are here for, which is their cases. Because if it's, it's what is it, 6:30, 6:22, when the earliest possible time that a case could start, that is, as you were describing during the minutes discussion, that's not great for many petitioners. It's a pretty big burden. So especially since that's what most people are here for, maybe, I don't know if, I'm not sure if there's any rules that you have to have the housekeeping stuff before the cases, for example. Maybe some of that stuff can be done afterwards. I'm not certain. But I would urge you to consider any changes that you make to have cases go as early and quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for general public comment, number 3?
Yes, please.
Okay, we have a second when Cheryl's ready.
Yes, hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can, yeah.
Thank you.
So Cheryl, whenever you're ready.
Mr. Warfield, you may begin.
Thank you. This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. The first thing I'd like to say is I really think it would be useful to learn from what else has happened. When you have people on the phone, and it seems that all the commenters certainly are on the phone, it's helpful when you say yes and identify who you're recognizing. I have actually been on meetings where I've said, "Can you hear me?" And they say, "Yes, we can hear you," but they're actually talking to somebody else. So it's not clear to me, who are you speaking to? You might be speaking to somebody else. It would be very helpful as a housekeeping thing to just say, "Yes, we can hear you, sir," or "Miss," or "Madam," or "Mr. Warfield," or anonymous number 3, or whatever. It's also helpful when you have a vote to say what the item number is for those who've lost track or have left for a time and had to come back, and so on. I said it before and I'll say it again. I think that your ability to make reports, to make publicity, is vitally important. When we brought the complaint against the Library Commission in July of more than a year ago, we were hoping that this would be a significant way of improving not only the Library Commission and our particular specific problem, but to improve all public meetings everywhere, certainly the city. And that might have happened if there had been some publicity for what you found was deficient with the library. However minimal your recommendations would be, such as, well, not minimal, but taking a pause and maybe saying how long a pause. I continue to attend meetings at which there's no pause, where they ask the IT person or somebody who's in charge, and they say, "Is there anybody who wants to make public comment in the queue?" And when they hear no, they don't say what's recommended, which is, "I'll take a moment. If you're listening and you want to make public comment, press star whatever." That lack of publicity means that everybody else is chugging along with the Library Commission having made some minor changes. Do take a pause, and that's helpful, but nobody else seems to be doing it. As anonymous number 3 commented at the time, this was an important decision. This is a core piece of democracy, public meetings, and to not publicize what you find about public meetings or anything else, I think, is very unfortunate. You should, I think, send all points bulletins out to every commission and every body that you that's affected with your decisions. I think that should be a routine matter so that they can see, oh, this is what they decided. And in general, I think you need to basically talk about how the law is being flouted at the highest levels of our city, so as to make it clear that that's wrong and that needs to be corrected. I know that it's difficult politically to take on high-level if you like, folks, but that's part of your job. Unfortunately or fortunately, that's what you've got. And each one of your decisions is important. Is that a 30-second warning?
You have 16 seconds.
Yes.
Thank you. I think that's a crucial part of your job, and if you look in 6730 and following, you'll see that that's a critically important part and absolutely part of your job. Important to beef up that part of your job. Thank you. And I think you'd have less complaints if people knew what the rules are and obeyed them, therefore, as a result.
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you. All right. I believe, unless there's anyone else here for public comment, General, we can move on to number 4.
Item number 4, file number 20059, complaint filed by Anonymous against the Department of Public Health for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6725 by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and/or complete manner.
All right, so let me first call roll. Anonymous, is this you on this matter? I believe it is. Anonymous number 3.
Yes, Anonymous number 3.
Okay, so you're present. Is anyone here on behalf of the Department of Public Health?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Could I get your name, please?
Yeah, of course. My name is Natalie Poyman, P as in Paul, O-J-M-A-N, and I'm here on behalf of the San Francisco Department of Public Health.
Okay, and you're in what status are you representing them? Are you the custodian?
Yeah, I'm the interim. I'm an interim here as a custodian of records in an interim basis.
All right, thank you. Well, unless there's any special matter from Member Stein, I think we could go ahead and hear from the parties. Initial statements.
Yes, let's go ahead.
Yeah, petitioner first.
All right.
Hang on, Anonymous, are you ready to begin?
I am.
All right, you'll have 5 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. This is Anonymous number 3. This is a very simple complaint. 2 years ago, I made a records request to the BPH at the very beginning of the pandemic for their communications essentially about COVID with the State Department of Health and the federal CDC. They just didn't respond. I filed a complaint. Eventually, they made next requests for me. Those requests are still to this day inaccessible to me unless I go make an account and sign in, etc. I have told them I refuse to do that. They just, at end months after, during the pending appeal, and knowing that I had filed the complaint, they had been served with this complaint, they simply closed my request. Sometime, I think, half a year after I filed it. As far as I know, I've never got any records. I still can't even access the next request they made for me. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Can we hear from the respondent next when Cheryl's ready?
Ms. Poyman, are you ready?
I'm ready. Yep.
You may begin.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. My name is Natalie Poyman. I'm here on behalf of the San Francisco Department of Public Health. The custodian of records who managed this request number 2010-76, left DPH in September of 2021. The extent of our historical knowledge about this case is limited to what was entered in our next request database. On February 28th of 2020, the San Francisco Department of Public Health received an immediate disclosure publish request from muckrock.com seeking all communications with CDC or its employees, email, text, or chat with 13 key words related to COVID-19, and all communications to or from the California Department of Public Health or its employees, email, text, or chat with 13 key words related to COVID-19. On March 3rd, 2020, the custodian of record at the time emailed the requester to indicate that per San Francisco Administrative Code Section 67.25a, the request would be treated as a standard public records request subject to the normally applicable 10-day response time with a possible extension. And this was via next request. On March 11th, via next 2020, via next request, the custodian of record pursuant of California Government Code Section 625.3c invoked an extension of up to 14 days because of the voluminous nature of the request. On March 13th, 2020, the custodian of record emailed the requester via next request indicating DPH had identified approximately 25,000 emails totaling an unknown number of pages potentially responsive to this request. We also indicated that DPH would need to review the emails for responsiveness, privilege, and exemptions. We noted that this effort would be time-consuming and, in light of the global coronavirus pandemic, including declared state and local San Francisco emergencies, would involve use of scarce public resources. On March 18th, 2020, the custodian of record emailed them for clarification on multiple requests received by the same requester with similar asks. We never received a response to this clarifying email, and in October 2020, the custodian of record emailed via next request and indicated that since additional clarification had not been provided, we were unable to conduct a diligent search for responsive records without that guidance, we considered the request closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that factual recount. Okay, so at this time, we may have questions for the parties. I'll open it up to you, Member Stein. Do you have questions?
So I guess I have just a question for the respondent, Ms. Ployman. So you said you are the interim custodian of records. Does that mean you're only going to be doing this for a short time?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Question for Anonymous 3, just to clarify, the sequence of events that were just discussed by the custodian, does that accord with your recollection as to how they tried to communicate with you their decisions?
No, it does not. Again, I can't. So first of all, their description of the request doesn't match what I have in here in this complaint, and I think they're talking about a different complaint or request as well, which I'm not sure what has to do with this complaint. This complaint is only about communications. It's a much narrower thing than what they were just talking about. It's only about the communications with the CDC or the California DPH. And they mentioned it's just all the communications with these COVID keywords. That's not what this request or this complaint is about. So this is a much narrower one. So I'm not certain if they're talking about a different one or they're talking about this one. Because that other one, maybe there are tens of thousands of records, but this, that seems highly unlikely. So.
Okay, when you say possibly another one, is that because you made a different one that was broader, or you're thinking that maybe someone else made one that's broader?
I know that other people also made requests that are broader, but I had a different request, that's also me, that was about certain text messages of the then, what is the title, Public Health Officer, which is different from the Director of Public Health, who was Thomas Aragon, and that is subject to another complaint before this task force about his text regarding COVID. So I'm not sure. I think we should. This is just about the communications with the State Department of Public Health and the federal CDC.
Yes. Okay. And just to I'm going to go to the respondent now just for a moment. Is it your, are you aware that there is limiting language here to the request that was made, where it's just about communications with those entities as described by Anonymous 3?
Yes, I am. All communications with CDC or its employees with, and then the 13 words related to COVID, and then all communications to or from the California Department of Public Health or its employees. Yes.
And so are you saying that that would also have resulted in something like 25,000 or more pages of documents?
Yes, from the records that we have here, yes, that's what my understanding. Yes.
And the communication about the 25,000, you're saying that was told to the petitioner that the quantity was that high?
Yes, via next request, yes.
It was told to Anonymous 3 via next request. All right.
That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you. And going back to petitioner, it seems like they were communicating with you through next request. Were those communications getting to you, or is that something that you would not receive because you did not participate in that next request process?
I do not participate in the next request process. I see what I get is basically portions of the next request log by email. And so what I'm looking at the current log on Muckrock, and I see they're responding to two different next request numbers, 20-1076 and 20-1078. And I'm not sure which one of them they're talking about right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't think I have any other questions right now. Member Stein, anything else before we move forward on this?
Yeah, I don't have questions. So.
Okay. And then I'll allow up to 3 minutes, but that's a maximum of rebuttal time from the parties, beginning with respondent. If you have anything further, when Cheryl's ready.
3 minutes. Is the respondent going first with the rebuttal?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready, Ms. Poidman?
I am, yes.
Okay, you can proceed.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. I don't believe I have anything else to say here except for I do believe we were discussing item 201076. So I just wanted to note that was what my records had. That's what I had worked to pull information for. So I just wanted to note that here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and next, when you're ready, Cheryl, from the petitioner.
Sir, are you ready?
I am.
Go ahead.
All right, I have been able to pull up the history I can see on my side here. So basically on March 13th, they sent me an email saying that the rule of reason would allow them to respond slower to normal, which I did not dispute. That seems fine. Then they said, you can call a Deputy City Attorney, Louise Simpson, regarding the updated status of the production. And that they say that nowhere in there, by the way, do they say that they will not do the search or production unless I narrow the records. This is not stated anywhere in here. They simply say, according to the common law rule of reason, that they will be able to take more than the usual 24 days to produce them, which has never been disputed by me. But they've just produced nothing. And as this has now come up multiple times, they have to start producing something, and they can ask me and they can show me how they can narrow it, but they can't just not produce anything at all. In the later months, they send me an email on April 15th, and she should check her records because they're definitely sending me emails on this thing from both 201076 and 20-1078, where they tell me the number of COVID tests available, and I ask again for them to make those next requests publicly viewable. They don't respond to me. Then I email their deputy city attorney as they requested. The deputy city attorney does not respond to me, and they simply close out the records request. So it's not the case that they ever demanded a narrowing or anything. At least not they've sent me by email. If they did something by next request, they haven't sent me. That's different. All they ever did was say, according to the rule of reason, they can take longer than the usual 24 days, which is fine. That doesn't mean they cannot provide records. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And so now the members will talk about what we want to do with this case. Member Stein.
Yeah.
What thoughts do you have?
Yeah. So my thoughts are that first, the agency should know that while petitioners can use next request to ask for information, they can't be forced to use next request. And if they ask to communicate in a particular way, that's the way they should be communicated with, which didn't happen here. And it also seems like, the information was not provided. This was, however, during the mayor's fifth supplement proclamation, mayor's proclamation fifth supplement, which did suspend deadlines. So I see this as a probable violation of the California Public Records Act 6253B and C. B being making the mandate that agencies make records available promptly, and C being that they need to communicate within 10 days of when a request is made, a timeline for when they foresee it will be answered. So those are my thoughts.
Okay. I'm pretty much with you. It seems like initially the timing with COVID, et cetera, and we're dealing with the Department of Public Health, the delays or any kind of confusion were understandable to, fairly understandable initially. On the other hand, the later handling of it and the fact that they just basically seemed to have dropped it and then they purported to close the request, I think that's where the sort of the meat of the violations are evident here. That's my take on this. So, I mean, as far as I see, just for purposes of the parties, the fact that you close a request doesn't mean it's a dead request from our perspective. It means that this is a request that was never responded to. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that this is a case that's definitely going to be moving on to a task force hearing. And I don't see any issue with the preliminary issues as to whether these are public records, whether we have jurisdiction. And so if we want to have I'd be agreeable to a motion where we move forward to the task force to consider the violations that you just described, Member Stein.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we have jurisdiction in this matter and that this involves public information and that we would like to forward this to the full task force for consideration of a probable violation of CPRA 6253B and C.
Okay. When you say, just one clarification, when you say probable violation, should we use the word recommendation, that we would recommend a finding of a violation? That's sort of a, it's sort of something that I think we want to be doing when we think it's a good thing to do.
I'm completely fine with that. So just change the wording to we recommend finding a violation of CPRA 6253B and C.
Okay, great. I'll second that. So when Cheryl's ready, we could have public comments.
There's the second I'm typing stuff. Do we have public commenters on this motion?
Yes, please.
All right, we have one public comment so far. One public commenter. And so let's go ahead and proceed with that when you're ready, Cheryl.
Yeah, Mr. Warfield, are you ready?
Just tell me when to start. Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com, and P.O. Box 170-544, San Francisco, California, 94117-0544. I take it you're taking both A and B under this item, determination of jurisdiction and a hearing on the complaint. Is that correct?
No, it's B and C, sir.
No, I see A and B on the agenda item. I didn't hear a separate discussion of the jurisdiction and a vote on it. I guess I'm not going to get a clear answer. I thought there were two parts and you would take a vote on each one. With respect to the motion, I certainly agree with the motion. I'm not clear why the complainant's request for a violation on 67.25 is being ignored without even any comment. It certainly seems to me that there were other problems with the response as well, so that other sections of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, if you wanted to clarify what the violations were, it seems to me that certainly within 67.21, since the complainant never got stuff, the timeliness issue is one piece, but getting nothing is certainly an important aspect and certainly should be considered for violation. The issues with next request, I think, also have to be very, very clear. I'm very happy to hear, though I have never heard it in any place else than tonight, when Member Stein said that people can't be forced to use next request. When I heard at the opening the anonymous 3 comment that next request disappears after 6 months, that is part of my issue. I believe they say the information disappears after 1 month. That's like providing information with disappearing ink. That to me is not even providing information. If you waited over a month or 6 months or whatever it was, that information that's been provided shouldn't go away and shouldn't disappear. Normal turning over of information, it stays in your email, it stays on a piece of paper that you got permanently. The excuses about how there was too much to respond, I think is totally wrong. As the complainant said, he didn't withdraw the complaint, and so their questioning and so on doesn't eliminate the fact of his request that should have been satisfied one way or another. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with public comment on the motion? All right, let's go ahead with a vote.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt, to find that there is jurisdiction, the records are public, and to forward the matter to the task force with a recommendation to find a violation of California Public Records Act 6253B for not making records available promptly, and 6253C for not making records available within 10 days. Did I miss
C,
something?
we're not communicating within 10 days when when information will be provided. It's for not communicating within 10 days.
Okay. Make that change. Shall we move to item number 5? Are we ready for
Yes.
item number 5?
Yes,
Okay.
we are.
Item number 5, file number 20053, complaint filed by Anonymous against Lieutenant Catherine Whalen, the police department, for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721B1 by failing to respond to a records request in a complete and or timely manner, and 6726 for withholding of records.
All right. Is anyone here on behalf of the police department?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you now. Could you tell us, identify yourself, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is Lieutenant Lynn Riley, R-E-I-L-L-Y, of the Legal Division.
Okay, great. Let's see. So you're from the Legal Division, but you're not a custodian per se, correct?
For all intents and purposes, I'm custodian at this point. I was just transferred to Legal Division.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we will hear from each of the parties to start, starting with the petitioner, Anonymous. When you're ready, Cheryl.
Okay, just to clarify for the committee members, Lynn Riley is new. She is replacing Aaron Para, who was promoted to captain. So she's new to all of this. Okay. So is petitioner ready to begin?
I am.
You may proceed.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. This is Anonymous number 3. This is another very simple one, although apparently this is a 2019 request. And as far as I can tell, I just looked at the muck rock, I've still never received one record. What I have received is 13 extensions. I basically asked for the underlying record for 3 other records requests they had given to people, and I pointed out that they were not following 6726. They were not justifying their redactions, and I wanted them to do that. And they gave me 13 extensions, and they have never produced a single record. As far as I can tell, they've never produced a single record. They just keep on sending me emails that says, oh, it'll be another few months before we send you records. As you can see at the time, when they responded to me initially, they told me they would give me records in January, in February, March. This is 2020. This is 2 years ago, and this is a pre-COVID request. So yeah, I don't know what else to say on this one. They just didn't. They just don't. They just never gave me anything. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think I went a little bit out of order on this because we just received this afternoon a submission from the respondent. It's pretty lengthy, and we have to, I guess, consider whether we'll consider that submission here today. Do you have any thoughts, Member Stein, on that?
So, I think I received it about 1 hour before this meeting, and I did look at their response letter. I did not look at any of the appendix materials they provided. So my inclination would be to not consider it, other than, what I saw on that first page of the letter, because I really haven't had time to look at it.
Sure. And I think that I looked through it. I did get a chance to at least browse through all the pages. I don't think it would affect what we're doing here today, because I think we can still probably push this forward to the task force, considering all the circumstances. I did see this incredible display of 13 extensions month by month by month. It certainly looked not much different than what we had seen in the file that we did get on Friday. So I think that we could say we're not going to actually consider it and move and talk about moving it forward based on just what we had gotten by the time of the deadline. But then it will be considered when and if this moves forward to the task force. So I will open up for the respondent response when Cheryl's ready.
Ms. Riley, are you ready to begin?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Cheryl.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, first I'd like to thank Cheryl. She did clarify via email the procedure for submitting documentation, and that this documentation had been late. So it was only her attempt that we're able to provide that to you. So I want to say thank you to her. In response to the request, the San Francisco Police Department is in receipt of the complaint filed by Anonymous against Lieutenant Catherine Walland for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance, Section 67.21, subsection B1, by failing to respond to a records request in a complete and timely manner. 67.26, withholding of records. San Francisco Police Department disagrees. The San Francisco Police Department received the public records request from Anonymous on October 16th, 2019, referencing number P as in Paul 009436, requesting copies of all records created, sent, or received from January 1, 2019 to present in response to Senate Bill 1421 requests. That's one of the attachments. On November 21st, 2019, San Francisco Police Department received Sunshine Ordinance Task Force complaint number 19124, filed by Anonymous for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance Section 67.21, 67.25, 67.26, 67.27 by failing to assist in a timely or complete manner, by failing to provide timely or complete response to a records request, by failing to provide rolling responses, by failing to withhold the minimal portion of public records, and by failing to provide written justification for withholding. On November 25th, 2019, SFPD provided Anonymous with copies of all records produced by SFPD in response to Senate Bill 1421 requests, which were previously released to the public. On November 26, 2019, SFPD provided the corresponding letters for each record release detailing the exemptions applied to the redactions. SFPD received a following public records request, P as in Paul 009436, from Anonymous on November 27, 2019, reference number Paul 009975, which stated in part the following, quote, however, you appear not to have provided copies of those records to the original requesters in a manner in accordance with the Sunshine Ordinance because you have failed to identify a clear reference such as a footnote for each redaction, SFAC 67.26, excluded GPS location tags from body cam footage, compressed videos to incomprehensibility, thus failing to provide exact copies and provided incomprehensible black and white copies of color photos. I will require exact copies and clear references for each redaction or withholding, as I intend to challenge your withholdings and redactions. Please also provide SFAC 67.21, subsection C, statement of the existence, quantity, nature, and form of responsive records within 7 days. There's an attachment for that. SFPD provided monthly updates to Anonymous from December 9th, 2019 to February 19th, 2021. That's an attachment. Anonymous filed a petition to the Supervisor of Records for a written determination. On August 6, 2020, the Supervisor of Records responded to Anonymous's petition as a determination had been completed for the petition. SFPD closed reference number P as in Paul 009975, attachment number 4. In response to Anonymous's request for a clear reference for each redaction, SFPD is in the process of revising all productions to include an overlay exemption code to each associated redaction to all previously produced records in response to Senate Bill 1421 records request. This process is ongoing. To date, SFPD produced records and overlay exemption codes for each redaction from January 29th, 2019 to January 31st, 2022, under the original reference number, P as in Paul, 009436. That's attachment number 5.
22
The
seconds.
SFPD, thank you, ma'am. The SFPD submits the following supporting documents to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force for your consideration. And there's lists of 1 through 5, and those are the attachments that you received. Thank you for allowing me to respond.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Member Stein, questions for the parties?
Yes. So I'm not sure where to start. So I guess I'll start with Anonymous. So I just want to be clear. You were requesting records that had already been released to someone else or to others. That's correct, right?
I was requesting 2 things. I was requesting the responsive records produced to other people and the communications back and forth with those other people.
Okay. And so were those eventually provided, but with many redactions in them that were not identified?
No, not in response to this request. And she explained that they're responding to different requests. I'm looking right now at this request, the one that's subject to this complaint, and I see nothing other than 15 extensions. And after the 15th extension, they just stopped talking to me. There's no actual records. And if I'm mistaken, that's fine. But I'm looking right now at this, and I don't see anything other than 15 extensions. So.
Okay. And have you had a chance to review the materials that were submitted by the respondent? Did you see any records in there?
I have not received anything from the respondent. The last communication regarding this request that I received was on, let me look here, February 19th, 2021, which is labeled PRA 9975 extension 15. There were no communications until February 8th, which was now Cheryl communicating February 8th of this year. And there's nothing in here from the lieutenant or the prior lieutenant either about whatever they may have sent you. Maybe they only sent it to you and not me. So.
Okay. Okay.
I don't have anything from her, so.
Okay, and then sorry, I just have a lot of questions here, and I'm just trying to see if there were any others for the petitioner. Okay, all right. So I think I understand the nature of your request. So my question for the respondent is, you say all records were provided. How were they provided to the petitioner?
Yes, ma'am. To this point, I don't know the manner of the records that were provided. I don't know if that was per mail or whatever manner the requester requests the electronically or by U.S. mail or whatever. That is the manner in which we provide. We obviously cater to the requester. So I would have to go back and ask through the division and find out how exactly these were transmitted to the requester.
Okay, and then you invoked the rule of reason. I mean, I did see all the extensions, or I saw several of the extensions that were communicated to the petitioner invoking the rule of reason. And I'm just wondering, did your office or did the SFPD consult with the city attorney's office before invoking the rule of reason?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't have any knowledge if the city attorney was consulted or not.
Okay, and so you probably also don't have any knowledge about whether anyone from your department tried to work with the requester to provide a more timely response before invoking the rule of reason.
That is correct. I cannot speak to that.
Yeah, and I'm just asking those questions because the Good Governance Guide says that any agency that invokes the rule of reason should do both of those things. You say you are now working on clear references for each redaction. So you mean that you are taking records that have already been released and you're now adding codes to materials that were redacted so people could understand what was redacted. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I think that the use of the codes is very important, and better late than never. And it will be important in the future because that allows us to know what is being asserted as a defense, and then we can figure out when those are valid or invalid. One just initial point I wanted to make was I want to ask that the respondent get over to Anonymous the package of documents that were sent in to us today, this afternoon, the ones that were given to us this afternoon that you had sent over to Cheryl, so that Anonymous can see what was submitted here. Please do that. I have a couple questions for Anonymous number 3.
Yeah.
Actually, mainly one question. This was way back in 2019, and this is a little bit of a task force process question. Can you tell me, with this request, and I know it's a little bit, there's a lot of requests that are flowing through the system, so it's a little hard to keep track of, what applies to a specific request, but why so long before this came before this committee? What, from your perspective?
From my perspective, I'm assuming it's because I have a lot of other complaints, but I don't know why this particular one was out of order. That I can't answer. So,
okay.
I'm not sure why this one was behind, say, other ones. I have no clue. So.
Okay. So for as far as you know, this could have been ready quite a long time ago to go before the complaint committee. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, nothing at all has changed for the status of this complaint or this request, essentially, since the day I filed the complaint.
Okay, thank you. Which is, just a comment from me, the chair, is that it's just incredible that we have a case before us from 2019, and that is not a good look for the task force. I also, let's see. Well, I don't think I have any questions about the rule of reason, but I am going to make a statement about the rule of reason here, but I'll wait until we're considering what to do with the case. So, Member Stein, unless you have, please.
One more question. So, I'm just trying to scroll through this file that was sent at the, an hour before, and I see that there are a lot of emails to Anonymous that go all the way back to 2019 that are sending files to Anonymous, and they are sent to, it looks like, and I don't know if Anonymous can say whether this corresponds to the correct request. It's sent to like a number 81227-348-19567 at request.muckrack.com.
That's not this complaint or this request.
So then this is materials that belong to another complaint. The 81227.
It may be another complaint, or it may be a request that's nothing to do with a complaint, right? I made a series of different SB 1421 related requests in order to force the city to actually comply with SB 1421, and they're different requests, and they attack different aspects of what I believe to be unlawful behavior.
So would you happen to know if these emails might be in response to a different, do you know the specific request they're in response to?
Can you give me the number again? I can look at it on Muckrock.
It's 81227-348-19567.
Let me see.
Seems that all the emails were sent there.
No, 81227 is the very first, I think, an original SB 1421 request to SSPD from myself, and that one does have ongoing responses, and I believe I already won a complaint against them about forcing them to do other things with SB 1421. So that's not this request. That's not this thing.
That is what I wanted to clarify. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I believe we're ready for our rebuttals. We can give certainly up to 3 minutes, first from the respondent, when Cheryl's ready.
Ms. Riley, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Again.
Okay, so my only ask of the requester, Anonymous 3, would be if you have the number for Muckrock for this request that you want these materials sent to, could you please give that to me tonight? And that's all I have. No further comment.
Okay, thank you. And now we can hear from Anonymous 3 when Cheryl's ready.
Sir, are you ready?
I am.
Go ahead.
All right, so first I'll address what SSPD just asked for. So this complaint is only about the requests and responses to Muckrock email address starting with 83843, and then there'll be a bunch of random numbers. But the first 5 digits are 83843, and it's the reference number inside SFPD is P009975 dash a bunch of numbers. So that is what this complaint and this request is about. It's about those records sent to 3 other records requests and the communications with those other requesters, and that's it. It's not about every SB 1421 record in existence. It's just about that. And the every SB 1421 record in existence was cited by the SFPD, another complaint that is already in compliance review and pending some compliance review. That's not this request or this complaint. So about the rule of reason, on my all SB 1421 records request, the rule of reason on all of them, they all declared rule of reason. I never disputed it because that seemed like exactly the kind of time a rule of reason is reasonable, right? But what they do, and it's not just SFPD, but most agencies, they declare a rule of reason apparently to any SB 1421 related request. And it has this template that they'll put in there that says, well, you know, SB 1421 takes a lot of our time, and so we just can't do any of them timely. That's not legal. When I ask for 30 years of records, declaring a rule of reason is totally reasonable. When I ask for 3 sets of records you've already given to someone else, that is not reasonable. I think I'll cite the case if and when this goes to the full task force, but there was a ruling against the Los Angeles, I don't remember if it's the sheriff or the police department, this concept that they can just indefinitely take whatever timeline they want for SB 1421 related records is not legal. And they have to respond to them on a rolling basis using all the same timeliness requirements as anything else. But I'll cite that ruling. It's a recent ruling about the Los Angeles trying to do the same thing, and they lost, or Los Angeles lost. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a question for Anonymous. The ruling that you just referred to, was that in a trial court, or are you talking about something that was up on appeal?
I believe it was trial court only. I don't know if it has been successfully appealed by the city. Well, Okay. Thank you.
All right. So this matter is before us now, Member Stein. I do want to say something while we're talking about the rule of reason, but
Please.
I'll give the floor to you on what you think we ought to do with this matter.
Well, I actually would like to hear what you have to say about the rule of reason, because it would slightly affect maybe what I would want to do.
Okay, that's fine. So this rule of reason it plagues us, and I think that we need to be acting in various ways to deal with the rule of reason, because I think it's misused, and it's misused in a rampant manner. What I think I want to do with this case, and this is outside of what we do with the case in terms of sending it to the full task force, is I intend to make a request to our legal counsel that they look at the use of the rule of reason in this situation, and they analyze the use of it in comparison with the actual rule of reason, which is clarified by the California Supreme Court in the Bruce v. Gregory case. And for anyone who wants a citation on that, that is 65 Cal 2nd 66. Now, I will also ask our counsel to look at the Good Government Guide. And when I speak of our counsel, I speak of the attorneys from the city attorney's office who are on our side of the ethical wall. And I'm going to ask them to look at the language of the Good Government Guide, and that is language that, as I understand it, is set forward by the city attorneys on the other side of the ethical wall. And I want our attorneys to compare that to the language of Bruce v. Gregory. Bruce v. Gregory says that the rule of reason, it is not reason, quote, in abstract, but it can only be used under the following circumstances. When it is strictly necessary to prevent direct interference with the operation of an office. Now, my concern is that the language that I see that is provided by the city attorney's office to agencies around the city is misleading and wrong. And I'm going to ask our attorneys to state a position on that. Partly because I think our attorneys should disagree. That's my thought on the rule of reason. Now, I don't think the way we send this forward necessarily is affected by the statement I just made. But I think the rule of reason is something we want to take up. I think this is a gross case of misuse of the rule of reason, but it's certainly not the only case that we're seeing. And so I think it should be looked at when we do push this forward, assuming we're going to move this on to the full task force.
Okay.
Other than that, Member Stein, I do see that, you know, this case looks like we're definitely going to move it forward to be heard by the full task force. It certainly has the predicate items satisfied.
So I'm just sorry, did you say that the case that you want them to kind of look at the good governance guide and compare it with, was that a California Supreme Court case?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I would pretty much be in agreement. I think it's clearly public information under our jurisdiction. I would be happy to recommend finding a violation of 67.21B1, failing to respond in a complete and timely manner, and 67.21C for not responding to a request for information about the quantity, form, and nature of the records. In terms of the rule of reason as it's currently written in the good governance guide, I also think they didn't really follow the procedures for invoking it under what the guide does say, even if the guide is sort of too permissive or allowing, in the sense that it talks about consulting with the CAO before invoking it. And in this case, we only have them kind of referencing things what they'd seen published in the guide, but they didn't directly consult about the specific circumstance, which the good governance guide says they should do. And then they also say that if you're going to invoke it, you should first discuss with the requester, a way to have a more timely response. And they also talk about you should be able to communicate to the requester how much time per week you're going to spend trying to respond when you're invoking the rule of reason. So even under its kind of the way it's understood now, that wasn't really followed in this invocation. So that's how I'm looking at it, and I'm happy to make a motion if you want.
Those are all excellent points, and I'm in agreement. And I will welcome a motion from you, Member Stein.
Okay, so I move that we move this to the full task force because it's under our jurisdiction and it's public information. That we recommend finding a violation of 67.21B1 for failing to respond in a complete or timely manner, and for 67.21C for not responding to a request for the quantity, form, and nature of the records, and that we also consider finding that this was not a proper use of the rule of reason, as it did not follow the procedures for invoking the rule of reason under the good governance guide. And I'll recommend that we have our legal counsel look at the rule of reason guidelines in the good governance guide in light of Bruce versus Gregory, to consider whether it's being properly interpreted or properly
Excellent.
explained. I'm not sure how to put that, but whether it's the guidelines being given are current with the current understanding of the rule of reason by the California Supreme Court.
I'll second that one. Excellent.
Okay. That was lengthy. And
Sorry,
I'm
Cheryl.
Yes. So,
Yeah, go back through, Cheryl. Let's make sure we
right.
cut all that.
Hang on. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt, that the records are public, that there is jurisdiction, and to forward the matter to the task force with the recommendation to find a violation of 6721 by failing to respond in a complete and timely manner.
Okay,
And
stop.
a violation.
So 6721B as in boy, 1.
Oh. Okay. By failing to respond in a complete and timely manner and a violation of 6721C for not responding to the request for the quantity and nature and not proper use of the rule of reason as described in the Good Government Guide, and request that our DCA review the rule of reason guidelines as they apply to Bruce versus Gregory and to see if the guidelines are current.
Okay, let me try to fix the latter part of that. 67.21C for not responding to a request for the quantity, form, and nature of the records. I think you just had quantity and nature.
No, my quantity, form, and nature. I had that.
Okay. Okay. And then it's really a separate sentence to recommend finding that this was an improper use of the rule of reason. As it did not follow the procedures for invoking this rule as per the Good Governance Guide.
Finding that this is not a proper use of the rule of reasons as described in the Good Government Guide. Okay, got that.
And that we request that our legal counsel look at whether the rule of reason in the Good Governance Guide conforms to the understanding of the rule of reason in Bruce v.
You went blank for a second. I couldn't hear that. Good Government Guide. I'm sorry. Moving a lot there. Can be a background noise.
That they look at the rule of reason as described in the Good Governance Guide and determine whether it can be reconciled or determine whether it needs to be reconsidered in light of Bruce v. Gregory. In light of the Bruce v. Gregory decision by the California Supreme Court.
Considered and updated.
Yeah, considered and updated in light of this Supreme Court decision.
Okay. Do we want to take public comment on this motion?
Yes, please. Any public commenters?
Yes, please.
Okay, we have one. Anyone else for public comment? Do we have a second public comment? I think I hear someone. No? Okay. I'm hearing echo, I believe.
I am too.
Okay, when you're ready, Cheryl, we have a public commenter.
Mr. Warfield, are you ready?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com. We're not a party to this, and we're not familiar with this specifically other than what we have heard, but we have no problem with the motion. In particular, I think it's very good that you are questioning the Good Government Guide with respect to something that you understand differently. I don't think it's anything wrong with stating what you think, but asking for legal advice on this formally is, I think, a good idea, although perhaps you might want to do that as a separate motion. I did want to comment on earlier discussions of allowing procedural issue. There was talk about whether you should allow consideration of something that was handed to you 1 hour before the meeting. First of all, I think that doesn't, to use the chair's phrase, it's not a good look for the respondent to provide material that is presented 1 hour before the meeting, and apparently not to the complainant. For the body, Section C of the complaint procedure says, Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Public Hearing Procedure says very clearly, both parties shall be held to the stated deadline 5 working days before the hearing. And that's, the administrator shall inform both parties of the deadline to submit any supporting documentation. There's also on item 6 a little bit of wiggle room with respect to material provided less than 5 days, but it seems clear there is a 5-day rule that's quite clear, and you shouldn't have any hesitancy in saying we're not going to sort of throw things into an uproar that where nobody from the public even knows about it until this minute, and so on and so forth. One of the things I'm hearing in this case and in a prior case is another issue that I think is problematic. One is, one in particular is the confusion of materials from different complaints or different requests. If somebody is giving multiple requests, it's absolutely vital to keep clear what response is being made to which request. That's just part of responsibly responding to records requests and so on. And that, I think, seems to be happening more than necessary. I'm taking it's a 30-second warning.
Nope, that's it.
That's it. Well, I think those things need to be clear and not confused, and you should be very clear about what's being offered for what request. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I think we're ready for a vote.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Excuse me. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt, that the requested records are public, that there is jurisdiction, and to send the matter to the task force with the recommendation to find a violation of 6721B by failing to respond in a complete and timely manner, and violation of 6721C for not responding to the request in the quantity, form, and nature and recommend that this finding is not a proper use of the rule of reason as described in the Good Government Guide, and request that our DCAs review the rule of reason as addressed in the Good Government Guide and determine whether it needs to be considered in light of the Bruce versus Gregory California Supreme Court decision.
Just that we recommend finding that it's not that it is not a proper use of rule of reason under the Good Governance Guide.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's yeah. 2 things on whether they satisfied the what they're told to do under the government guide, and also we're looking into the substance of the You don't need to change the motion, though.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. You ready for the next item?
Yes. We'll
Item
plow
number-
through.
Okay. Item number 6, file number 20124, complaint filed by Stephen Bajanski against Kevin Guy and the Office of Short-Term Rentals for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6724 for failing to respond to provide public information, 6725 for failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely manner, 6726 for failing to keep withholding to a minimum, 6727 for failing to justify withholding, and 6729 for failing to provide an index of records.
Okay. First question, is Mr. Bajanski here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And is there anyone here on behalf of the respondent, the Office of Short-Term Rentals? Anybody here for the Office of Short-Term Rentals? Okay. I don't think we have anyone here for the respondent, although if we will check back because I know there can be communications issues. So what we will hear from Mr. Bajanski first, and please, one thing that we're interested in is what you believe is still outstanding that you have not received that was requested. When
Right.
Cheryl's ready, you can wait for Cheryl, but we'll hear from you, Mr. Bajanski, now.
Got it.
Sir, are you ready to begin your statement?
Yes, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Sure. So I just want to first say, my name is not Steven. My name is Stillian. I'm not sure where you got that name from. I kind of find it intimidating to be called Steven multiple times, but I don't know. In terms of the violations, I think we already determined in the previous sessions or meetings that indeed the short-term rentals violated the Administrative Code Sunshine Section at least 6724, and I think they also violated the 6727. I'm not sure why we're still keeping. And I don't know whether those violations show somewhere, but I don't see them anywhere for the short-term rentals, showing that they indeed violated. So I'm not sure why we are still keeping those going on. I think they indeed violated those. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Again, anyone here on behalf of the respondent? Office of Short-Term Rentals? No. Okay. Questions? Member Stein, question for Mr. Bajanski.
Yeah. Okay. So this file was a little bit confusing to me. And I'm sorry to have to ask this, Mr. Bajanski, but can you be very specific about which records requests were the subject of this complaint? Because I think there's sort of two different things that got thrown in here, and I just want to make sure I understand which records you're talking about in this complaint. Is it the records of the 7 public hearings, or something else?
Those are the records are for the audio recordings, for specific audio recordings. I think that's the complaint for.
Okay, so for the audio recordings of 7 public hearings, was that it? I mean, of 7 hearings at different dates?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And what do you know on what date that original request was made?
Well, we can look at the request to the task force, or the request to the
to the planning,
to the agency, to the planning department.
Correct, the planning department.
Was
it August 5th?
I'm not quite sure. There were multiple requests. I'm not sure. Whatever you put on the paper.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are 2 different dates in the packet we have. Seems to be talking both about a request made on January 5th and a different request made on August 5th. So I'm just trying to clarify which request, but you say it's for the hearings, and
yeah.
What was received? What did you receive so far?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what I received, but they were delayed. So I mean, there are specific ordinances that I think everybody should comply with, including order department. And if they're late, they're late. So I think they should have a violation for being late.
So so you received everything but late.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to
And
really.
I think we did agree on that in a previous meeting.
Okay.
That they were late.
Okay, and that's it, I guess, for my questions.
Okay. I don't think it does sound to me like this is about the delay, and Mr. Bajanski is seeking a ruling that there was delay, and there being no. I don't have any questions other than thank you, Member Stein. Those were what I was trying to, the same type of information I was going to try to ask about. So no questions from me. So we can move on to Mr. Majanski if he wants to add anything. When Cheryl's ready, you can do a rebuttal.
No, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, Member Stein, I think that this one's pretty clear cut.
Yeah, so
What do you think?
I mean, I think we should move this to the full task force because the records are public and under our jurisdiction. But I would recommend that we find a violation only of 67.21, failure to respond to requests in a complete and timely manner, as I didn't really see evidence for any of the other alleged violations. You know, as I understand, the evidence would need to be there under the Sunshine Ordinance. And I think the agency has pretty much admitted that, you know, the records that were provided, some of them came late. So I'm wondering if this is something that we could recommend go to the consent calendar.
I would, I think that if we had the capacity to do that, then this would be a poster child case for a consent calendar.
Do we not have the capacity to do that? Can we not recommend that it go to?
I don't think that things are set up for us to put anything onto a consent calendar. I may be wrong about that, but that's just my understanding, is that the only consent process that has been set up, it's exclusively the use by the chair.
Well, okay, sorry, I'm going to backtrack because I know I had started to make a motion, but I'm wondering if we could send it to the chair and ask the chair put it on the consent calendar.
Sure, let's do that. That
rather
sounds like a
than
good
send it to
idea.
the task force immediately, and then if the chair is willing to, here's what I would say then, that I recommend that we send it to the chair, asking that it go on the consent calendar, to find a violation of 67.21, failure to respond in a timely and complete manner, and that if the chair, you know, doesn't choose to put it on the consent calendar, that it go to the full task force for hearing.
That's a good motion, and I would second that motion, and I will second that motion.
Okay.
This is Victor. I was wondering, has the respondent acknowledged a violation in this matter?
That's what I believe in the materials. I have to go back, but I think they do acknowledge a violation. I mean, they acknowledge that it didn't come within the time frame it should have come in.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, because unless they acknowledge the violation, the consent would not work. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Victor. So that is our motion, and it's seconded, and so we can go ahead with public comment on it.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, I will just say, just in response, I'm sorry, can I just say that, yeah, I have in my
That's all
notes
right.
that it was 16 days to respond. So they were over time and they acknowledged the dates on which they responded, so.
I wonder if we should add in that the respondent failed to appear today.
Yeah, do they have to appear at a, committee hearing, or do they only have to appear at the?
No, everybody's got to appear.
Okay, then yeah, let's add, I will add that.
Okay.
Sorry, which
Yeah,
one?
the second agrees.
But what is the section number?
And I do suggest that we inform the respondent of the action of the committee.
Victor, you're echoing.
Okay,
Well, I don't think we heard you clearly, Victor. There was a lot of echo.
Yes, I do suggest that we inform the respondent of the proposed action of the committee,
okay.
just so that they know what's going on.
Yeah, I think
that
is correct. And then, so I'm just adding a violation of 67.21E for failing to send a custodian of public records to this hearing.
Second agrees.
Okay, so I'd like to repeat this. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt, to find that the records are public, that there is jurisdiction, and move to the task force, find a violation of 6721, for failing to provide a response in a timely manner, and that the agency has admitted that the records were provided but late, and recommends that the chair recommends to ask the chair to send this matter for consent calendar on an additional violation of 6721E for failing to send a person most knowledgeable to the hearing.
And also what Victor suggested, which is that this outcome be shared with the agency. That the plan is to send it to a consent calendar because they acknowledged that it took them longer than the required time to provide the records.
Well, that's what I said. Records were provided, but were late.
Okay, all right. No, but the point about sharing it with the agency in preparation for it to go to the consent calendar.
You want to make public comment on that motion?
Yes.
Do we have public commenters?
Yes, please.
Okay, we have one.
We have other public commenters? Okay, Mr. Ward, are you ready to begin? I'm sorry.
Yes, good.
Was that anonymous number 3 requesting to make a public comment?
Yes. Oh, I don't know. I just heard from Mr. Warfield.
I know, but I thought I heard anonymous number 3. All right. When Mr. Warfield is done, I'll ask a second time. Mr. Warfield, are you ready to begin?
Yes, just tell me when.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Peter Warfield, Executive Director, Library Users Association, Library Users 2004 at yahoo.com. And PO Box 170544, San Francisco, California 94117-0544. I'm hearing a lot of sort of shrieking and whistling or something in the background. Should I stop?
You could proceed. I think we're all having a lot of echoing.
Okay, I'm not hearing echoing, but I'm hearing.
We can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I appreciate an acknowledgement of the sections that apparently were requested by the complainant. They are listed in the agenda as 67.24, 67.25, 0.26, 0.27, and 0.29, which is failing to provide an index of records. It seems to me that for somebody who takes the trouble, and it's usually quite a lot of trouble, to file a complaint and to follow through with it, when they specify things that they think were violated, it seems to me it would be worth specifying certainly what you found, that there were not violations of those sections, but also to have some kind of discussion about why you don't think those were violated. With respect to the failure to send somebody to the hearing, of course you have to find that. Otherwise, your whole procedure becomes a joke. If you don't even enforce that the violator or potential violator has to show up. With respect to the consent calendar, which I have a lot of concerns about because of the very diminished public nature of what goes on, and because I think it's very important to find out and understand why and how a violation occurred if you're to fulfill your role as folks who do what I've said, which is in 6730 and so on, and that is to understand what's going wrong and why, so that you can consider what measures might be taken, changes in the law or more publicity or stronger enforcement, whatever it is. And it doesn't seem to me that I don't know where it's documented. My recollection was that you would do this on the request of a complainant or of somebody other than your own initiation. And I don't know where it's documented. I certainly would appreciate if you would say where in your procedures it's documented before you make a suggestion of that sort in a motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I believe that's the end of public comment on the matter. We can have a vote.
Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Moved by Member Stein, seconded by Chair Schmidt, to find that the records are public, to find a violation, and to move to the task force with a recommendation to find a violation of 6721 for failing to provide a response in a timely manner, and 6721E for failing to send a person most knowledgeable to the hearing, and for failing to provide a response in a timely manner, that the agency has admitted that the records were provided late and recommends to ask the chair to go to the consent calendar and that this outcome be shared with the planning department. And that's it.
I think I also had said that if the chair doesn't think it can be sent to the consent calendar, that it moves to the full task force.
Next item.
Yes.
Item number 7, file number 22005, complaint filed by Mark Norton against the Department of Public Health for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and or complete manner, As I said at the beginning of the hearing, I did receive yesterday morning an email from Mark Norton saying that he's not able to attend the meeting and requests that his complaint be continued to another meeting date.
Right, didn't we already continue that or no?
That's continued, I thought.
Yeah. We already continued it at the beginning of the meeting. I mean, we voted to continue it.
Okay. Item number 8, number 22006, complaint filed by Andrew White against the Department of Police Accountability for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.1, 721, and 6724D by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Okay. Is Mr. White available today on the telephone?
Yes, I'm Mr. White.
Oh, great. Okay. And is anyone here on behalf of the respondent, the Department of Police Accountability?
Yes, this is Sarah Monder.
Okay, great. We have our parties here. We will. I think it's a fairly.
What was the last name?
I'm sorry. It was White. So
for
Monder,
the respondent.
That's Sarah Monder, Maundder, as I recall from the records. And so we'll hear from the parties first, starting with the petitioner, Mr. White. But it is a very straightforward case involving a star number, as far as I know. So you have up to 5 minutes to make an opening statement when Cheryl's ready.
Mr. White, are you ready to begin?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. It's not only the basic function of this claim is complaint is the star number, I guess. But the main one is that's not mentioned is mediation, a mediation option that's offered by the DPA. So I'll start with the star number based off of the keynote. I would like to say from Susan Gray. I'll call it the keynote. The letter that was provided in the email on January 10th to the task force, Susan Gray, the staff attorney at the DPA. And she referenced the star number regarding the Sunshine Ordinance 6721K, the rebuttal jumping into the SB, or the California Public Records Act. But first of all, I was using 67.24D to reference cross-reference on and rebut on the star number because it's public knowledge. First of all, there's no case, court claim, law enforcement information. It's regarding local records and do the investigations. I'm not filing a court case or anything. So I'm kind of curious about that. And the other one was the mediation. It's not mentioned, which I did request. They gave me the option. The DPA gave me the option originally, and it was I think October or sometime, and they changed their mind. I'm not sure why they changed their mind. So normally I responded with yes, I would like to opt for mediation, and the officer kind of, I don't know, the only way that they decided that it wasn't a good option after that for some reason, and I sent in the necessary paperwork. This was in October sometime. Requesting it, but I was never given a reason as to why, and I sent a letter to the investigative hearing department hearing coordinator, which is what this keynote from Susan Gray, staff attorney, was based off of, on 12/16/21. So I never received anything in reply regarding mediation, only the star request. So that's a violation of her own, it kind of defeats her own argument with regards to Administrative Code 67.21K, in my opinion. And it's, let me see here, mediation, 67.21 should actually withstand, uphold the complaint. I would say regarding mediation, a response to why the mediation. Was there a meeting that occurred between Officer W. Ma from the Central Division, Company A, Chinatown, I'm assuming here, Police Department, with Investigator Joe Lazarescu. So I don't know, was there a meeting held? I'm not aware of it, they never told me. So I opted for it. I submitted paperwork for this mediation, and I was never, it was not responded to. So that's a violation within the 10-day period. In my opinion, provide electronic records, provide reason for denying a request. I received none of those. So that is my argument. As also, I'm also curious.
Oh, go ahead. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I mean, yeah, the only thing is I'm just curious, as if the DPA is required to obtain ethics and sunshine training. I suppose I was looking at the Ethics Commission, and it says city officials they're supposed to be trained in these areas. So I don't know if maybe they missed the training session. I'm not sure. Susan really missed it. I don't know.
Thank you.
I'm just just guessing.
So now we can hear from the side of the respondent, Ms. Monder.
Hi, good evening. This is Sarah Monder.
Cheryl. Yeah, sorry. Cheryl, when you're ready.
Ms. Monder, are you ready to begin?
I am.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening again. This is Sarah Monder for the DPA. The DPA is a civilian investigatory agency that we do investigations of officer-involved shootings and complaints made about police officers. We're independent from San Francisco Police Department, and we are not officers ourselves. We received a handwritten letter from Mr. White on December 20th, 2021, which was a Monday. The letter was about several issues related to a complaint that Mr. White filed about a police officer. And in the first paragraph of the letter, there was mention of a verbal request that had previously been made for a star number for a police officer. A star number is another way to describe an officer's badge number. And although this is a request for information rather than a specific request for records, we treated the request as a public records request because we are in possession of documents that do contain an officer's star number. However, we denied the request for information because peace officer personnel records are confidential under Penal Code 832.7, and an officer's star number is part of the officer's personnel record. Also, DPA has knowledge of the officer's star number in connection with the complaint investigation, and complaint investigations against police officers are also confidential under the same penal code. Regarding the request for mediation, that is not a public records request, and so it was not replied to in our letter. It was just one of the things mentioned in the handwritten letter, but it was not a public records request, and so that is why we did not reply to that aspect of the letter in our response. And then we sent our denial letter to Mr. White on December 21st, denying the request, and that was within one business day of receiving the request and was therefore timely. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, time for any questions we might have. Member Stein, anything?
Yes. So I have a couple questions. For the petitioner, I understand that you want to know why mediation wasn't offered, but did you specifically request documents pertaining to the decision to offer mediation?
I believe I requested any records of a meeting between Officer Ma and Investigator Joe Lazarescu in the letter on 12/16/21.
Because I didn't, could you tell me the exact wording? Because I didn't see that in the letter. I saw that you wanted to know if there was a meeting, but I did not see anything phrased as a records request for any records pertaining to a meeting.
Well, I guess I'm looking at the cause of action here for cause of action number 3. Let me see. I received a letter regarding mediation from the DPA mediation coordinator, Shanti Kisana, approving mediation. I accept the terms that the officer under investigation must not have. I'm unsure of the officer's logic and or reason. If they declined at all the previous cause of action, 3 is the third reason. I, Andrew James White, am requesting an investigative hearing. So maybe I poorly worded it, but I'm requesting an investigative hearing regarding the officer's decision on the mediation.
Right, but that's not something that we would necessarily have jurisdiction over, as we only have jurisdiction over public records requests and whether records are provided or not. So
records are provided or not. So I've provided audio between myself and Joe Aldereski. I believe that's a public record.
Right, I just
would you have jurisdiction over that, Mrs. Stein?
Over what exactly?
You have jurisdiction over the audio interview between myself and investigator Joe Aldereski. I'm just curious.
If you requested it,
if anybody, if somebody would request it, if it's public. I mean, is it public record at all? An audio.
I'm not sure. I don't know if it would be a public record. That's a different question, which I haven't looked at. If it involves like sensitive personnel matters, there might be parts of that record that are public and parts that are not public, or there might be parts that are exempt from being public. But I think one of the issues here is that I'm not seeing really a clear records request on this mediation.
So they might be exempt. You just don't want to go over that right now, since I didn't specifically specify the personal audio between myself and the investigator. I'm just running a parallel to the audio that should probably be available through the investigator, and although it was implied in my letter to the investigative hearing coordinator, it should run parallel to the audio that I took place in regarding his decision. I don't know why they removed the option. I'm in the dark on that.
Okay, yeah, and I don't know either, and I haven't looked at that question in preparation for this hearing, so I can't answer it at the moment. I would think that would be public, but I'm not seeing that you requested any documents associated with what the mediation decision. Or the decision
I didn't specify. I poorly worded it. It's called back number 3.
All right. So that's what I wanted
hearing
to
coordinator.
clarify.
I believe. Sorry to interrupt you.
Sir, could you wait for the question? Member Stein didn't have.
What question is that?
Had not formulated a question.
To be answered? She answered it.
If she has a question for you, let's let her ask the question.
And not, because I just want to get through my questions and not take in a lot of, things that might be extraneous to what I feel like I need to know. So is the complaint also, this complaint is against just the SFPDA only, or the SFPD and the SFPDA?
Well, I replied to the ground. I believe in your protocol, there is a option to run a dual complaint or whatnot. I replied in an email. I don't know if I can pull it up, but I replied in an email if I can run a concurrent complaint, then I would like to do that, because I also sent an email which I provided in the January 10th email to the task force, to Cheryl, that I sent an email to the police department requesting a STAR number, very basic email, and they never replied. So yeah, I suppose if I can, I would like to file a complaint against both.
So you also requested the badge number from the SFPD.
Yeah.
I don't think that email was in our packet. And so I'm asking because I was a little bit confused, because in most of the complaint it talks about the SFPDA, but then at the beginning it also talks about SFPD, but I didn't see an email, but maybe Member Schmidt remembers.
Which email? The one that I requested the concurrent complaint? I mean, the one that I agreed to the concurrent complaint.
Where you would have requested the badge number directly from the SFPD.
Yeah, I included it in the January 10th email. It should be, I'm trying to open it right now. Yeah, it should be in the January 10th email to the task force. There's an email to the SFPD Central Station stating I need Officer W. Ma star number regarding police accountability case.
Okay, I see a Monday, January 10th email. I only see one.
That's the email that was sent to the police department was on Friday, October 29th.
Okay,
it was an attachment. So SFDPA summary. I actually got the title. I kind of did a cross up on the titles. A couple of attachments there, so it might have been confusing for you. There's a SFPD star number PDF file, and there's a SFDPA summary. So, yeah. But they're it's actually like a flip. You gotta flip them. You gotta swap them out. Or like flip the titles. There are two attachments.
Okay, so you.
January 10th.
Oh, well, I don't think I have any. I don't think I have any ability to look at an attachment. So all I see is administrative summary, a mention that you asked, SFPD, but I don't see any attachment. Okay, and then, sorry.
I might interject that it looks like the complaint that Mr. White submitted did list both the Department of Police Accountability and the police department. On the other hand, as we have the case before us here today, the only notification that's gone out about this hearing was to police accountability. And so I'm not quite sure what we ought to do with the fact that the public records complaint was submitted with the police department listed. Now, the request that was made, it appears that it may have only gone to police accountability. So it's not clear to me whether any, if there was a request made to the police department by Mr. White, what that was. I don't see it here.
It was. There's for the star number. I mean, basically, there's a dual complaint. It all is star number for, if I to break it down to two different complaints. Star number for the police department, to keep it basic, because I emailed them, and that's an attachment that I emailed to you also. And then the mediation situation would be to the DPA, basically, because there's some sort of like weird little rabbit hole with the DPA and the star number where I have to go direct to the police station, and they don't respond.
So I brought that up because I did see that both agencies were mentioned, but like I said, I don't see an attachment. I see a statement that you say you sent an email to them, but I don't have any attachment that would say show the email that you sent to them.
On the January 10th email I sent to the task force on January 10th.
No, it would have to be an email sent to the SFPD. It would have to be.
Yeah, I did. I attached that email to the January 10th email sent to the task force. It says it's SFDPA summary is what it's under. It's a PDF file.
Okay, if you could tell me the page number it's on in the file, do you have that in front of you?
What page number? It's just one attachment.
Right. Have you seen the packet, the complaint packet, with all the documents that you submitted?
The complaint on the complaint. I guess I'm a little confused. I apologize.
The complaint. So I only know about your complaint because of the packet I was given that has all the materials that you submitted, and that packet would have been shared with you as well by the task force. And so I'm just trying to locate
the complaint. Yeah, the complaint packet. I mean, I broke down the in the email, January 10th email. It says I've attached at the bottom of the email. So I've attached the following supplements to accommodate this email dated 1/10/22. And number one PDF file, SFDPA summary, should be the email to the police department.
Yeah, the problem is that we don't have the ability to look at that. We don't have that as an attachment. We just see number one and we see that line item, but we don't have, if you don't specifically submit those documents, we can't see that. There's no attachment.
Are you saying the attachment didn't attach to the email?
Correct.
Oh, because I sent it to myself too, and I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. So I'm just, I bring this up because, you know, if we're actually also at the same time hearing a complaint against the SFPD, we haven't notified the SFPD, and we don't have any real documentation in this packet because, as I think it's confusing, I know, but the communication that you would have gotten from the task force says that you have to submit all the primary documents, that we don't get attachments. We don't have an interactive file that we get. We just get a PDF that has no interactivity whatsoever. So if there was a link, we don't see it.
Has no interactivity. So it's useless for me to.
I'm sorry. Could you wait until Member Stein finishes her sentence, please?
Well, I did finish, but I'm just letting them know, like, we can't see that document.
This is Victor.
Yeah.
Yes, I have opened up that PDF attachment. There is a subject line that says WM star number request per San Francisco Police Department. Department of Police Accountability is the title, but it's addressed to the SFPD Central Station. So that's probably part of the confusion. The title of that email is addressed to the Police Accountability, but the email address is sent to the Central Station.
I mean, I would still like to hear this, complete this hearing. But I think we have, if we can do it in a way that we sever out the SFPD part of it, and if he
we can create a separate file.
Yeah, and if he wants to go forward with a hearing against SFPD for not responding, then we can do that. But I just wanted to clarify who he meant this complaint to be against, and clearly it's both agencies.
I guess it would be. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay, and then I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Let's consider that we're only able to talk about police accountability, their involvement here, because the SFPD was not noticed for this hearing, so they're not here to respond in any way. So this matter will be, we may send this forward. But it would only be against police accountability. We'd have to handle the SFPD separately, as described.
Okay.
Okay, and then I had a question for the respondent. So I'm trying to think how to word this. Why is a badge number a confidential personnel record when, in fact, the California Penal Code says that uniformed police officers have to wear their badge, nameplate, and other device which bears clearly on its face the identification number and name of an officer? Why is that? Why do you assume that it's a confidential personnel record? It seems from the California Penal Code like it's a public record, like it's something that needs to be identified to the public.
So our access to that information is it's an identifying number for an employee, and we are not the police department, so our ability to access that information requires us to consult records that we are only entitled to as part of our oversight capacity for a complaint investigation. And so in the same way that a person's, like an employee's name might be confidential, like a list of employees that work for your agency, perhaps, it's the record itself, like our access to the record. So an officer may be out on the street and you might be able to read their name and star number, and that's out in the public, but our access to that information is derived through confidential personnel investigations. It's the access to the information, the way we access the information and how we get to it that makes it confidential.
And is there something in the policies that govern you that you can point to that says that all the records that you have are considered confidential personnel investigation records?
Yes, it's Penal Code 832.7. And we are a designated civilian oversight agency to conduct police misconduct investigations. And 832.7A states that all of those investigations are confidential, except in about 8 circumstances, none of which apply here. And the 8 circumstances would be
I saw
those
that, yeah.
Serious incidents. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Those were my questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I think that we're now treating, let's just confirm that we're going to sever and say that proceeding against the police department on these, on the seeking for the badge number is going to need to be a separate matter since we can't do that today. But with regards to the Department of Police accountability, let me ask a respondent question. In what you were just saying about the badge number, are you saying that your agency does not have a record of the badge number of the officer that is involved here?
We do have records that contain the officer's badge number, but those records were created in connection with a misconduct investigation because we aren't the primary. Mm-hmm.
Your agency is aware of the badge number.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I don't know if I'll ask the petitioner. You requested a mediation with police accountability, correct?
Well, I was offered the option, and I agreed to it. But it needs to be agreed to on both sides, I guess, and I don't know what happened with the other side.
Okay, so what you're trying to find out is what happened to your request to mediate, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And if you had made a records request vis-a-vis the mediation, it would be in the letter that we have in our record here, correct?
Yeah, I poorly worded it. I didn't know. That's the whole thing is I'm trying to determine, as I educate here, is there an audio that between, I have to, the DPA gives me the option for mediation, and I return a form saying, yes, I agree to mediation. And then the other party, being SFPD, would have to also agree to mediation. But they didn't tell me if they agreed or didn't agree. They just said they don't think it's a good idea anymore. That would be DPA being they.
Okay. I think that with regards to police accountability, if you were looking for any records of the mediation decision, any discussion, I think you'd need to be more clear about that you're asking them for that information. And then if there's an audio that you're requesting from them, I think that you could make a request to them that they provide it. I can't say whether they'll give it to you or object on some basis, but I think that the request would need to be made, and you can do that. You can still do that, certainly, I'm sure.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, and that's all. I don't think I have any further questions. So, Member Stein, unless you have anything further, I think we can go to the let the parties do a rebuttal. All right. So you get up to 3 minutes. If you want to add anything in rebuttal, this is your time. So when Cheryl's ready, we'll start with the respondent.
Ms. Mander, are you ready to begin?
Yes, but I have nothing further to add.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. White, do you have anything further?
I'd just like to reinforce the fact that I think 67.24D should defeat, or 67, the Susan Gray staff attorney letter referencing 67.21K should not be valid, I guess. Or the star number. So I don't know. That's all. 67.24D.
Yeah.
I think should validate it.
Okay, thank you. And then we will now discuss that, and we're going to talk about your request and what we want to do with it. So, to Member Stein, any thoughts on, at least with the police accountability, whether we should send this forward to the task force?
You're on mute.
Member Stein, you may be muted.
Hi, sorry. I was trying to get rid of unnecessary background information. Yeah, so, I think this is something that is a little bit confusing to me. I mean, I understand what gets determined to be personnel records, and I feel like from everything I understand about badge numbers, that they would not be a confidential personnel record. What I'm not seeing here, and I'm not sure where to look for it, is the SFPDA, exactly what governs, how they have to treat the information that they collect. I mean, so, I would say, I would imagine that if this information were requested from the police department itself, and the police department refused to give it, that seems to me like not giving information that is basically mandated to be public information. But I'm just not clear at, how the SFPDA has to treat the investigative records that they have. So I think that presents a significant question for the task force, unless you think you can answer that question.
Well, my thought on this is that the investigative files, the investigative documents, etc., they may be validly confidential, but I think what I'm seeing in this case is that we're just talking about a badge number, and the badge number is a piece of information that's in among lawyers, we maybe say it's sui generis. It's sort of a one-of-a-kind thing. A badge number is just a number, and it is something that, as far as I know, it's a badge that anyone out in the public can see. And so the number itself could not be a piece of confidential information. And so, whether you're asking for records that contain the badge number is one thing, but just the number. I don't see how they can say that because it's contained in records, that means the number itself, somehow it takes on like a imprimatur of confidentiality. So I think that it's going to be hard to argue that just the number itself is not discoverable in a request for public records, request for public information. So my thought is that this should be looked at by the task force, and it would be, I'd be open to hearing new information that I haven't already heard, that somehow the number should be treated in some different way. But it sounds to me like I think it probably ought to be disclosable, and that they should have disclosed it because they do have access to the number.
Yeah, so I would also just add that if the SFPDA wants to argue differently, that it would bolster their argument if they had some kind of documentation about why their agency has to treat that as a private piece of information, when the police themselves, it seems, should not be treating that as a private piece of information, and not just rely on general notions of confidentiality of personnel records, because it doesn't really reveal anything about the personnel other than an identification number that that California says should be public. And but I do want to add that I just feel that we don't have any jurisdiction over this question right now of mediation, which I know the petitioner is interested in, because I don't think a clear records request for any records associated with why they decided not to offer mediation has been requested. So yeah, I think that part is not under our jurisdiction. Simply wanting to know why without a records request is not something we should be getting involved in.
That's fine with me. I guess what we could say is that we don't find, or we find that we don't have jurisdiction over anything with regard to the mediation itself, just with regard to the badge number.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think if the petitioner wants to go back and request records in a clear way, dealing with the mediation decision, that could be a different matter. But I don't think that's on the table here.
Totally agree. Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to make a motion? Because
sure. Yeah, I'll just move that we find jurisdiction over the badge number question, but not over the mediation records question. The badge number is a public record. We make a recommendation that we find a violation of 67.21B. Let's see, 67.21 for failing to respond to a public records request.
Well, they did respond.
Or I'm sorry, to failing to properly produce in response to a public records request.
Do you also want to say something about we're only considering a violation by the SFPDA and not the SFPD at this point? Because we don't actually have.
We could make a just that this is only against the DPA, but I guess that's part of the title is that we, this finding. Just Cheryl, I'm just sort of going back to the start of my motion. We're moving that this thing be moved to the task force only against the Department of Public Accountability, not the SFPD. That would be a separate matter that would need to be opened up as a separate matter. Yeah, I think that's it.
And just to be clear to the petitioner, it's because we don't have the information here about what was requested of the SFPD. We're not able to examine that request or see if that was like a clear request. The SFPD would have understood, and we don't have any information from the SFPD about receiving that request or how they responded to it and why.
Is it unachievable to it? Is it just not possible to forward attachments with an email to the BOS email address?
The way our complaint packets are put together, attachments don't come through.
Oh, so you're talking about the actual form? Because I sent it in the body of an email. I looked at the complaint form packet off the website and I itemized it in an email. I believe
right.
1
We
through 6.
We can't click on that email and we can't see the things that you itemized and tried to attach. Just so you know, that's why we're doing this. I think if
Is
you
that
wanted
a technical difficulty, or that's
if you
just
wanted to put a separate complaint against the SFPD, you would have to send those documents directly and make it clear that you want them, each of them included in the packet. You have to send the.
okay.
This is Victor. We will go ahead and open the file against the police department and just duplicate the file and create one against the police department, and we will schedule it for next meeting.
Okay. If the petitioner wants that. Okay.
Good. And so there will be, this will proceed, but it'll proceed separately against the SFPD. And so we need to, because the SFPD probably has no notice of this complaint, that will go on a process that would probably, I don't know if we can necessarily do it right away because they need to get notice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Most likely we can schedule it for your next month's meeting.
Yeah, we can start working on that tomorrow.
And then also, I just want to say, to be clear, it's like as a task force, our mandate, we can't insist that agencies answer your questions. But if you ask for particular documents and you specify what they're in relation to, we can look at were they properly given or withheld. But we can't just say that they have to answer a question you have about why this or that happened.
Okay. Yeah, that's just a clarification to Mr. White. Yeah. That's all.
Yes.
Okay. So does that motion line up, or are there any edits, further edits that you would like?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay. So we have a motion, and I believe that's, I didn't hear the word second. Do you want to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay. So we can go to public comment on that.
I just want to be sure about what we're saying here. You are moving to forward the matter to the task force against the Department of Police Accountability and find jurisdiction over the question of the badge number, but not the mediation. The badge
Yes.
number is public record, and you make a recommendation of a violation of 6721B for failing to produce records in response to a public records request.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah, I think so. That sounds good.
All right. Do we have public commenters on the motion? This is public comment on the motion regarding the Department of Police accountability.
Okay, it doesn't sound like we have anyone. That's fine. So let's go ahead with a vote.
Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Stein to forward the matter to the task force against the Department of Police accountability and find jurisdiction over the badge number question, but not the mediation question. The badge number is a public record, and the committee makes a recommendation for a violation of 6721B for failing to produce records in a timely manner.
Okay, looks like we have one last item on our agenda for tonight. Oh, not a last item, but number 9 is the second to last.
Item number 9, further consideration of efficient changes to complaint process.
Okay, one thing I'll say is I just noticed that I don't think it was intended to say efficient changes, but more efficiency changes, the title to this. I have a couple of these memoranda I know I authored, and the most recent one I was trying to enumerate options whereby Member Stein, anyone on this committee could choose to include in a proposal that would go to the full task force. And I know that this matter had been discussed in detail at our last meeting, and I had attempted to place things into somewhat of a better order whereby Member Stein could look them through and choose which ones that she would be willing, and she being the only other person here as a voting member today, would be willing and interested in pushing forward to the task force. And so what I came up with at the end were 6 different sort of sub-proposals that are described in my memorandum. And with that, I will not repeat what I put into the written material. I do know there was some issue that we spoke of earlier whereby the written material, it's possible that it's hard to access because the word attachments doesn't show up. I'm not 100% satisfied with having that be a way that we do business. But I do think it's, on the other hand, permissible that we continue to talk about the different proposals, which were already in the record. They were discussed earlier, and I had been simply trying to put them before the members for discussion here today. So I think that could be allowable. So Member Stein, I give to you a chance to see what you think about this.
Yeah, let's see. I'm not on mute, am I? No. Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the presentation of it. I thought it felt more succinct this time and reflected the earlier conversations, you know, that we had and the public comment that we had. Let's see. I thought that actually before the proposal, the way that you talk about what the actual Sunshine Ordinance says and how we've sort of built something on top of that that doesn't necessarily have to be because of the actual wording of the ordinance was a good way to start. And then, I mean, I think each of these points is definitely worthy of being discussed by the full task force. And I think they could significantly overhaul you know, the way complaints are handled. And I think, like, even tonight, that example of, you know, the Bajanski complaint, I think it would waste time in a way to bring it before the full task force, because I think it's just clearly a violation, and the respondents have admitted that they, you know, provided things late, and that's a perfect example of the kind of thing that could have been reviewed and sent to a consent calendar without taking up, you know, all of this hearing time and the full task force time, and hopefully get a result sooner, right? Yeah, so I'm on board with all 6 points, I would say, as far as taking them to the task force and having a discussion of whether these are things we want to implement.
Great. I guess what, you know, that sounds wonderful, and I appreciate that. I think that, you know, we certainly may hear substance from members of the public, and I'm certainly very interested in hearing that. And so when we do have public comment on this, that will be another sort of learning experience. This would undoubtedly put us into some pretty significant debate at the task force itself, and that will be another step in the process. So there's nothing that gets done here today. This is basically to try to put something together and to sort of, I felt like I did end up putting a decent amount of time in trying to sort of boil this down. And I felt that, you know, nothing's perfect here, but it's developed enough so that I think it can at least cause people to really think about the circumstances we're in and the trade-off and the trade-offs that we're making right now, because we are spending so much time in the hearings of matters, especially the ones that could be dealt with much more summarily and efficiently. So I guess what we ought to do, if this is okay with you, is I will make a motion that we forward all 6 items of this proposal to be considered, and that we make a recommendation that each of the 6 be considered by the full task force.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. And so at that point, we will hear public comments on the motion. Sullivan, it's number 1. Anyone else public comment on this item? Okay, so we have Sullivan, and whenever Cheryl's ready, we will hear from Sullivan.
Mr. Sullivan, you ready to begin?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm all for the proposal. Glad you guys are doing this. Just to add another thought, the respondent's thorough response to any task force inquiry via something like the respondent's form increases efficiency. Carrot and stick. Carrot. Respondent may not have to appear at a hearing if the hearing may not occur. Stick. Essentially, when the task force is requesting a response to a form, it is asking for a public record and public information. CPRA 6253 says every person has the right to inspect. While a request from the task force should be okay with meaning every person, a task force request for a response from the respondent can come from the complaint committee chair or task force chair. A member can also request information at any time they have questions, so that all the facts can be before a hearing or order. Failure to respond within 10 days by respondent would be an automatic violation of the Sunshine Ordinance and the Ethics Commission under 67.30C. Shall make referrals to a municipal office with enforcement powers whenever it concludes that any person has violated any provision of this ordinance or the acts. Shortened. I urge the task force to use all the teeth it has. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. I don't know if we have any other public commenters. One last check on that. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, so we can have a vote.
Chair Schmidt?
Aye.
Chair Schmidt, aye. Member Stein?
Aye.
Member Stein, aye. Moved by Chair Schmidt, seconded by Member Stein to forward all 6 items of this proposal and recommend that each of the 6 be considered by the task force.
Thank you, Member Stein, for your very important input and assistance with this. We'll see. We'll see.
We're going to discuss it, honestly. So
we'll look forward to the next round on this one. Okay, Cheryl, next item.
Item number 10, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the complaint committee.
Anything from you, Member Stein?
Not really. I don't think so.
Nothing from me.
Okay.
I think I just exhausted my future agenda items for the time being.
Excellent.
All right, on to the next item.
Yeah. Next item.
Item number 11, adjournment. I have 8:56.
Great. Okay.
Who moves?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Ooh. Laura, there was no mover.
He said he
Moved
moved to
adjourned.
adjourn.
Yeah, I moved.
Okay, Dean, I didn't hear that.
Sorry.
Okay, I will stop the recording now. Thank you
Okay.
very much to everyone.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.